According to modern science, birds evolved from bird-like raptors sometime in the Jurassic period. It's been said often in recent years that birds are, in fact, dinosaurs, and that raptor dinosaurs have few, if any, traits that distinguish them from birds. However, orthodoxy dictates that birds evolved from only one species of raptor dinosaur, and that all the thousands of species of bird descend from the direct proto-bird ancestor of the same single species of raptor. It has even been shown that all raptors likely had feathers, or at least proto-feathers, even the famous T-Rex. That's finally solved the riddle of why T-Rex arms are so small compared to the rest of its morphology. They are not arms at all, but wings used for balancing. However, there has been much debate about which raptor is the direct ancestor of birds. What's more, there is no actual evidence that all birds evolved from a single species of raptor. The greatest argument for a one-raptor origin is that supposition that the development of flight likely occurred only once in avian evolution. Considering how often scientists rely on convergent evolution to explain similar traits in species of different taxon, such as supposition is questionable at best. Wings used for gliding might easily evolve into wings used for flying more than once in the millions of years of raptor evolution, especially considering how quickly this ability arose in the evolution of insects, reptiles, and mammals. However, it may indeed be the case that avian flight arose in only one species among the ancestors of modern flighted birds. That does not necessarily mean that all modern birds had an ancestor that could fly. In fact, there is no reason at all for this to be so. According to Wikipedia, Phorusrhacidae, colloquially known as terror birds, are an extinct clade of large carnivorous flightless birds that were the largest species of apex predators in South America during the Cenozoic, 62 to 2.5 million years ago. 62 million years ago is the time period where fossils start showing up again in abundance on the planet after the K2 event, which supposedly destroyed all of the dinosaurs. This is supposedly only shortly after South America broke away from Africa. For 10 million years before and after the proposed time of the K2 event, fossils become scarce over the entire planet. However, many animals that lived before and after K2 do not have any fossils from this blank period of our fossil record. Therefore, we know just because we don't find a fossil of an animal between 85 million and 65 million years ago, it doesn't mean that the animal wasn't around. In fact, scientists have found a refugium in North America where dinosaurs survived for at least several thousand years after the K2 event, and are likely to find more of these refugium in years to come. About the raptor Phorusrhacidae, Wikipedia goes on to say, Phorusrhacidae may have even made their way into Africa, with the genus Lavocatavis recently discovered in Algeria, although its status as a true Phorusrhacid is questionable. A possible European form, Eulutherenornis, has also been identified, suggesting that this group had a wider geographical range in the Paleogene. These birds aren't just grouped together because they are big, they all have skeletal features that identify them as a unique group within the bird family. But did they really make their way to Africa, or were they already there before the continental split? We can believe that one dinosaurid rapid evolved into a proto-bird, and that all modern birds evolved from that one proto-bird, and then only the one species of those thousands of species known as Phorusrhacidae evolved back into a 10-foot-tall raptor on 3 separate continents. Or we can believe that Phorusrhacidae evolved directly from a raptor long before the continents were fully separated, and that they never flew at all. The latter is infinitely more probable, since the differences between the youngest bird-like raptors and birds themselves are pretty much non-existent. If you look at the skeleton of a terror bird, it's pretty much identical to a bird-like raptor from just before the K2 event. Terror birds show back up as soon as fossils become abundant again in the global record. But when you look at the reconstruction of a terror bird, most artists try to make it look bird-like because of their preconceived notions. Likewise, most artists still draw T-Rex without feathers on its arms or even the spindly proto-feathers that covered its body. Below is a drawing of several bird-like raptors from just before the K2 event. Utah raptor, in particular, looks more like a dragon than any dinosaur I've ever seen. Today we know that Phorusrhacidae look more like this artist's rendition than the way it has traditionally been portrayed, basically like a big ostrich, which it wasn't. Man met Phorusrhacidae in South America and may have met the beast in Africa and Europe too. Remember, less than 2% of Earth's animals left fossils. Scientists claim that less than 1/3 of the endangered species living today will leave fossils. Most Ice Age megafauna are yet to be discovered and identified, and most never will be. It's amazingly lucky to leave a fossil, and you pretty much have to be an incredibly abundant and successful species to even have a chance to. It's the winning the historic immortality lottery when you actually leave a fossil. When Darwin wrote The Origin of Species, the theory of continental drift had not yet been accepted. His model assumed that the continents had always been pretty much where they are today. Since the basic theory of evolution has long been accepted by scientists, it has been broken down into many disciplines. Today, scholars no longer look at the big picture of evolution because they are concentrating on a very narrow segment of the fossil record, rather than the whole fossil record in the way that Darwin did. Each scientist pretty much stays within his one area of expertise. In short, we're no longer seeing the forest for the trees. For instance, it once made sense that monkeys drifted across the ocean to populate South America in the days when monkeys were only thought to have been 10 million years old and the continents had always been in the same places. Now that we have identified other South American species that are as out of place as New World monkeys, fossils of simians stretching back almost to the time of South America's separation from Africa, and the knowledge of continental drift, isn't it about time we went back and updated that theory? Avian evolution scholar Eugene McCarthy has much more to say about that on his website macroevolution.net. It is interesting that though he has identified a similar need for an updating of mosasaur, whale, pangolin, armadillo, and bat evolution, he has not yet pointed out this similar possibility in species of his own field. Although some of McCarthy's theories seem radical to most, and I am, at best, doubtful of his claims about human evolution, it is interesting that no skeptic has yet provided a decent argument against these ideas. Other than Phorusrhacidae, there were other giant birds for early man to meet in Oceania and the Americas, and their evolutionary origins are still largely unknown. Demon ducks in Australia, giant storks in Flores, the Hast eagle in New Zealand, the teratorns of the Americas. So were terror birds raptors? Were raptors dragons? They sure look like dragons to me, and using those little wings to slow their descent when pouncing on their prey might have seemed just like flight to a puny little human on the receiving end of predation. Could this have anything to do with the fact that myths of dragons are universal across all cultures, times, and peoples?